Good evening and namaste. I, Priya Gazdar, am your host for this evening, and I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you to IKMC 2025, Beyond the Blueprint, Recalibrating Innovation for a Disrupted World. We are gathered here for the inaugural plenary, and without much ado, I would like to invite Chairman and Managing Director, IKP, Ms. Deepanvita Chattopadhyay, to deliver her welcome address.
A very good evening to all of you. It's such a pleasure to gather again because this is our annual event. You know, for the last 20 years, initially we used to do IKMCs once in 2 years, but now from 2011 it became an annual event. And every year when we meet our innovators, when we meet our policy leaders, friends from the industry, and we deliberate on where is innovation moving, the idea is always to get some cues for what IKP would be doing in the next 2 years, or maybe in the next 5 years. Every year we discuss innovative ideas. Every year we've been talking about how to improve the innovation ecosystem. But this year, when we looked at what we've been doing for the last 25 years, I also see that the innovation ecosystem and the world around us have changed, have morphed, and we need a rethink. We need to think, is the incubation and science park that we run, it's just not IKP, there are about 750 or 800 incubators in India. There are over 100 bionests, which are life sciences incubators, supported by BIRAC. We probably need to rethink, is this the model of the last 20 years that's going to work for the next decade? Or there's some radical changes required. Incremental changes have happened so far. And if we have to really make sure that we as enablers put India in this framework of technology, climate change, and geopolitics, global geopolitics, where would the enablers act? How would the enablers act? What would be our role? And to deliberate on this topic, the theme of 2025 IKMC is Beyond the Blueprint. We had a blueprint of how science parks are run. We have a blueprint of how incubators are run. Are we going to follow that blueprint, or are we going to rewrite it? That is the question. Recalibrating innovation for a disrupted world. Some of you would say, why do you call it a disrupted world? It's the same. But there are changes, and the changes manifest in different ways. If we do not acknowledge that and do not take the right actions, we will not be able to deliver what we aim for 2030 as a country, what we aim for 2047 as a country. And I must say, we all have a role to play. It is not the government. We cannot leave it only for the government, because we as enablers, we as influencers in our own right, in our own little way, have to make sure that we play our role well. We do what we are supposed to do and do it well. We started today with 3 roundtables, one on One Health, one on CGT, cell and gene therapy, and the other on smart proteins. We also had 2 workshops, one on IP and licensing, and the other on regulatory areas of functional food and smart protein and other areas of medtech. We decided to have the inaugural in the evening as a small gathering because this will be only about 150 to 200 people today. Tomorrow we have 700 innovators and startups. If we have to do an inaugural in the morning, we would probably not be able to accommodate all these startups and innovators and engage with them in meaningful conversations. We normally have our plenary, inaugural plenary in the morning. We decided to shift it. We want to change everything. And tomorrow, I hope all of you will be there. The exhibition we are doing with our startups will not be focused on sectors. They'll be focused on purposes for which they're built, like South-South dialogue. It could be startups in medtech, it could be startups in environment, but all startups focusing on that area would be put together. Like that, there are 5 areas. I'm not going to talk about it. It's for you to come and see. But we are excited that we will have new conversations with startups. It's very important for me to say that before, actually we were supposed to, hey, we can take out this slide. You don't need, suddenly I see, well, what is it? So, there is one reason also to ensure that we have a star among us, and we would felicitate Dr. Varaprasad Reddy. But before we do that, just want to have 2 small initiatives to discuss, one with BIRAC and the other with a startup in CGT called VGen. Shilpi, would you like to? Shilpi, I invite Ms. Shilpi Kochar to come on stage to announce the new partnership center with BIRAC that IKP will be having. Please, Shilpi.
Very good evening to all. We had a wonderful sessions, 3 wonderful sessions since morning. I was a part of 2 of them. Had to miss the Smart Proteins one, but heartiest congratulations to IKP for this wonderful IKMC. And it's the initiatives, the efforts which are going on for last 25 years. We're already seeing the results of it, and many of our BIG, BIRAC supported startups. IKP has been a pillar for those startups transforming their ideas into commercializable products. We were yesterday over the dinner also discussing that the way IKP has been able to blend the research flavor with the translation flavor is exceptional. So heartiest congratulations and kudos to the entire IKP team. A big applause for them. So again, the slide says Introduction to BIRAC Initiatives. I'm sure BIRAC needs no introduction to the community that is gathered here. So I would skip the BIRAC intro. BIRAC, very briefly, as the central government enabler, we are standing very firmly behind the entire transformation that this innovation ecosystem of biotechnology has seen over the last decade. So whether you talk about 1,000+ startups whose ideas have been converted to products through the Ignition Grant, they've been supported through 8 partners. We talk about the 100+ biotech incubators, ma'am just mentioned, of the 700, 800 across the country. We talk about 400 odd industry projects that have been supported, 400 academia that has been supported, and the recent BioE3 policy, which is now shaping up the biomanufacturing initiative, biofoundries. So BIRAC, if you see, has been there as the backbone of this biotech innovation ecosystem all throughout. And we have customized, we have offered our schemes in a way so that we can support the entire value chain from ideation to commercialization, whether it's for grants, it's for incubation, it's for networking, showcasing, IP, legal, regulatory, all the support in a 360-degree holistic manner. So building upon the legacy and the success of the BioNest incubators, and which was also supported by the BIRAC regional centers, we thought that this needed a more structured kind of a program and a more national level to be able to kind of replicate the ESO model from the West. So we have a lot of tangible support that is provided by the incubation, the incubators per se, with regard to the physical space, the equipment, the instrumentation. But then there are certain other structured support activities which mature startups are now looking forward to. And with the evolution of this ecosystem, it's important that we recognize those activities formally through a focus program. So what BIRAC did, as I mentioned, that we have been evolving with our programs. We developed a new program and we announced on 16th of January this year, which is recognized as the National Startup Day by Honorable Prime Minister. And we called it the BIRAC EDGE program, which is called as Enabling Development and Growth of Enterprises. So as the name suggests, it largely focuses on the growth aspect. And we created 6 verticals out of it. One is on the acceleration. One is driving investments into the sector. One is on the internationalization. One happens to be in the field validation. The other one focuses just on the Northeast region. So that's how we kind of structured these 6 verticals. And we invited applications from mature incubators and ESOs. And we received close to 120 applications. We just closed the final screening round last month. And very happy to announce and very pleased to be associated with IKP as the partner for internationalization. I congratulate IKP team on this success. And we formally announce IKP as one of the very few partners who have got the edge and edge internationalization per se. So what this vertical would focus upon is the access to international markets, access to international investors for the mature stage startups. So IKP, again, has been standing as a very strong partner, right from BioNest to BIG to the first regional center, BRIC, and now the EDGE Center, one of the 2 under the internationalization category. So heartiest congratulations once again, ma'am. I'll pause here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shilpi. Dr. Jitendra Kumar, MD BIRAC, was here, but he has a meeting with the minister tomorrow morning in Jammu, so he had to leave. And thank you, Shilpi, for introducing the EDGE program. I call it the BIRAC IKP EDGE Center, because Jitendra has been telling me, Madam, this is a national center. This is no longer an IKP center. I said, fine. And probably today we were discussing, do we need an office in Delhi? A small office in Delhi. Thank you. So Jitendra is not here, so we'll take that out. Yes, now you can.
Congratulations to Team IKP and BIRAC for IKP BIRAC EDGE, Center for Internationalization. Another first, I'm sure, and we welcome it to Hyderabad. And moving on, next on the agenda is the MOU exchange between IKP and Vision Labs for the Center of Excellence for Cell and Gene Therapy. I would like to invite on stage Mr. Prashant Bhavar, Founder and Director, Vision Labs. Joining them on stage would be Mr. Uday Kumar, Founder and Director, Vision Labs.
You're going to introduce, say
I would like to invite Mr. Prashant to say a few words about this MOU and the center.
Very warm evening to all the audience here. So this is Prashant Bhaur here. I would like to take this opportunity to thank IKP and the team, especially Dipanvita ma'am, Dr. Vishu. I think the theme which talks about beyond the blueprint, we as a company, we had been in the innovation space. We have a lot of capabilities in the small molecule domain. But then we really wanted to transform ourselves, right? And then looking at the current, what I can say, the technological advancement which is happening around. So, and then we were very seriously thinking about getting into CGT space for more than 18 odd months. And we were instrumental in last 6 months. We had been lot of engagement with IKP and team, and including BIRAC as well on several front. And I think we are very fortunate today that when there is already an BIRAC and IKP, the H program is being signed, and I think this is a very right moment for us to engage into the MOU. So the fundamental purpose of this MOU is to establish a center of excellence in the CGT space with the help of IKP. I think we had been in the Hyderabad domain for more than around 16 years, and we had seen IKP. I personally had worked in the Genome Valley space in the Alexander Knowledge Park. So we had seen the way the IKP has actually supported so many startups and so many multiple things. And I never imagined that, during my whole tenure of last 16, 17 years in Hyderabad, I would actually see this day about engaging in MOU. So I think this is a very fantastic moment. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is about exchanging the MOUs. So, the reason why we felt that this MOU would be so important, because they are looking for support from various fronts. They have already raised very significant amounts of money. And can I say about the Chinese technology? So this is very important, They have already licensed a technology from China for development here. And there's already patient data, and we are expecting that this will be a company which will really make a difference in the Hyderabad ecosystem in terms of cell and gene therapy. So this is an MOU that we plan to sign. We have signed, but this is an exchange, yes. This is, so. This is yours and this is mine. So thank you. Thanks. So with this, we introduce Dr. Varaprasad Reddy. So we can ask.
Congratulations again on the MOU. And now we will be awarding the IKP at 25 Shapers Award to Dr. Varaprasad Reddy, founder Shanta Biotechnics, the man who's put Hyderabad on the world map of biotechnology. I would like to invite Mr. Ranjit Sen, IKP Startup Mentor, to do the introduction.
While Ranajit walks up for introducing Dr. Varaprasad Reddy, I have to tell you that 25 people and companies were given the IKP Shapers Award, who actually helped us shape what we are today. And it starts, of course, with Mr. Narayanan Vagul and Dr. Ashok Ganguly, Dr. Bala Manian, Dr. Mashelkar, Suneet Maheshwari, Nachiket Moore, Dr. Chandrababu Naidu, Sheila Bhide. many of you may not know these people, but some of you, of course, and Dr. Varaprasad Reddy definitely know them, and very thankful that he was one of our earliest supporter of the ecosystem. Thank you, sir. Ranajit.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes. Am I audible? Well, it's a privilege and it's an honor to introduce my earlier boss and mentor, Dr. Varaprasad Reddy. His story of Shanta Biotechnics started way back in 1990, am I correct, sir? 93. That was when the company was formed. But before that, you attended a conference, a WHO conference, in 1990, where there was a derogatory comments about India and Southeast Asian countries not being able to produce their own hepatitis B vaccine. Hepatitis B is a dangerous disease which, has a similar transmission way of HIV, but there is a vaccine against hepatitis B, but there was no vaccine against HIV. And hepatitis B happens to be 100 times more infectious than HIV, but at least there was a vaccine to prevent hepatitis B. So when he heard this comment, he was determined to do something about it and come back to India and start doing work on this hepatitis B vaccine. He realized that it is a neglected disease in India, particularly with about 25 million births annually. And WHO had recommended that each child must be vaccinated against hepatitis B. As an MNC vaccine was then sold for rupees 750 to 850 per dose, 3 doses had to be administered per individual, and it added up to 2,250 to 2,550, which was unthinkable for a common man in those days. On his return to India, Sir contacted the founder of Dr. Reddy's and Intas, looking for a prospective partnership, but both were of the view that it would take a lifetime to produce this. It is a very long shot, and it would take a lifetime to produce indigenously a recombinant DNA product. But he was determined to have the final vaccine produced in hand. His cousin then organized a get-together of expatriate Indian scientists. Noticing Sir's conviction and zeal, a few offered to commit to train people if he could nucleate a team in Hyderabad. A few of his classmates and cousins, they supported him monetarily with around 52 lakhs. And on his part, Sir sold a part of his paternal property for 68 lakhs, and together they generated about 1.2 crores as the startup. Sir then started looking for collaborations with scientists, and he was fortunate enough to come across Dr. Malla Reddy, who was the then Vice Chancellor of Osmania University, and he gave him a space in the microbiology department to start the work on hepatitis B vaccine. The scientist then was Dr. Geeta Sharma, and she isolated the surface antigen of hepatitis B. Thus, Shanta Biotechnics was born in 1993 in the small lab at Osmania University. The Indian researchers he wrote about 70 to 70 scientists, Indian researchers and scientists working abroad, and alumnus of Osmania University and other research institutes in Hyderabad. In a letter, he requested them to come and join his cause for making India free of hepatitis B by developing its indigenous vaccine. Only 3 responded and came back to India to join the team led by Dr. Geeta Sharma. The hepatitis B surface antigen was finally isolated in 1993 end. While the scientists were holding the research front, Sir was worried about the finances. The initial seed money of 1.2 crores was running out. Sir approached both nationalized and private banks, who refused on the grounds that there was no precedence of funding for a recombinant product being developed in India. A silver lining in the dark clouds of financial bankruptcy appeared for Shanta from Oman in the Middle East. The Oman Finance Minister Yusuf bin Alawi Abdullah heard about Sir and Shanta Biotechnics' attempt to develop a hepatitis B vaccine. Yusuf bin Alawi and his representative, Mr. Khalil Ahmed, came to visit Shanta on a personal capacity and ended up buying a 50% stake with an investment of 1.8 crores in 1994. The Omani investment started rolling, setting up of a state-of-the-art factory in a large-scale production. But none of the researchers had an idea on how the mass-scale production should be designed. Dr. P.M. Bhargav, then the founder and director of CCMB, stepped in as a member and arranged a visit to Baroda for a visit to a newly laid R&D center and production plant of Sun Pharma. While there are, what Sir said was, while there are indifferent people, there are humans who are sensitive as well, after his visit. In the meanwhile, due to some politics in Osmania University, Sir had to shift his work to CCMB, where he was joined by two eminent scientists of CCMB who later joined Shanta as the key, one of them as the key head and the other and Dr. Revati as a senior scientist. Critical characterization of the vaccine was conducted by Shanta Biotechnics at CCMB. In the spring of 1996, Shanta finished first batch of hepatitis B vaccine was ready after being tested on animals. Shanvac B was produced, that was the name of the recombinant hepatitis B vaccine, in Pichia pastoris. Okay. Which was different from the one used by MNC. Shanvac B was decorated with two process patents owing to the better yield and robust purification process. The next stumbling block was clinical trials in humans. Am I yeah. Should I continue? Well,
Ranjit, it's too long a story.
Anyway, he had a struggle with the regulators because the regulators did not know how to approve a recombinant product. Anyway, finally the product was ready for launch in the month of August 1997. And that coincided with the 50th year of independence of India. So there's a lot to be told. So I didn't talk about myself because I was part of the marketing team which created record. Thank you.
He was the first marketing team.
Thank you.
People talk too much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me.
So you got a flavor of how revered Dr. Varaprasad Reddy is. If Ranajit, and I know all the people who worked with Sir would have this, like they can't stop praising him. And as I mentioned, Dr. Varaprasad Reddy was one of IKP, considered as a shaper of IKP, and this was designed as a very special award, Shapers Award. You know, this shape, it's like a globe, but it is called a rhombicosi-dodecahedron. It has these decahedron pieces, but it's a globe. It has the night sky in it, and it is a symbol of the universe captured in a globe, not as a single piece, but several pieces, dodecahedron pieces, integrated together as a collaborative measure. Oops, now I have, watch. This has come down. I will make sure that my colleague puts it, and that's Raju has to put it. Right. So this is something very interesting to us. Just give it to sir, because you know this is something that we have specially designed. So,
Madam, one second.
this is something that specially designed 25 pieces. That this has come out is not a symbol of unstable global situation. Last year it was stable.
Not stable. Dynamic. Should be dynamic. Blueprint also not good. Blueprint is not good for innovation.
Blueprint is not good. That's why we are breaking the blueprint. Yes.
Like it's current GMP, you should do current innovation.
Current innovation, yes. I know you have a sore throat, and I promise that I'm not going to disturb you by asking you
I
to
just
say
say
anything.
thanks.
Okay, please, sir. And this we'll put in a box and make sure that it works.
Did not work. It is a symbol of
Yeah.
honor. Thank you. Namaste to everyone. My colleague, yesteryear's colleague Ranjit Sen was, I think, overwhelmed with joy to introduce me. And he's going line by line for, I think, from 93 onwards, he starts giving each day, counting to 35 years. So, anyway, it is a arduous journey. When we started the first biopharma company in the country, it was really very difficult at that time because no awareness in the government circles. Biotechnology is not a known word. No regulatory system in place. No pharmacopoeia having recombinant DNA products in the pharmacopoeia book. And regulatory people were not aware how to test it, how to accept, how to license it. There were no protocols. Naturally, banks were also very reluctant to support for the reason that they say there is no precedence of biotechnology products here in the country. Second reason is my background. I do not belong to life sciences. I am an engineer, electronics engineer. Like I think Madam also engineer, and she was in telecom policy. There is some nearness, but my background and her background. My electronics engineering degree, I did some work in defense labs as an R&D scientist. So anyway, very odd times at the time. No Knowledge Park, no Genome Valley. Not many people in the government sectors knew about biopharma products. In such circumstances, my ignorance was my bliss. And many stalwarts like Anjali Reddy, all those people, they felt it would take at least 30-40 years to go into biosector. My total sheer ignorance made me to jump into it without knowing the depth and length of the project. The only belief is I had a lot of respect and belief in Indian science, Indian engineers, Indian doctors, Indian meathers, intellect. So we started it without knowing how much time it takes. But the commitment what we made to ourselves is to make it available locally. Locally means we were importing until then. Government didn't have enough foreign exchange to buy the product and at that high cost. So the commitment what we made to ourselves at Shanta is to make it locally available at affordable cost. Affordable in the sense where as any other vaccines are sold for 40 to 50 rupees per dose, we thought we should do this vaccine also at the same price, 40 to 50 rupees, so that that could be included into immunization schedule. That's what WHO wanted us to do. By 1997, every newborn child should be vaccinated, and that's how they gave the mandate. And few countries could not follow that mandate because lack of resources, lack of initiative to develop their own vaccines. At that time, only 3 countries were making this vaccine, recombinant vaccine, and nobody gave us technology, and even if they give, we don't have that kind of money to buy it. As I told, I have faith in our Indian scientists. We did it in 5 years' time, thanks to my scientist community. All these awards and recognitions, accolades should belong to my team of scientists and other people who worked with Shanta. At one time, we were 1,600 people. We started with just 6 people in Usman University. And we have done, with the same spirit of make it available, make it affordable, 14 products we did in Shanta. We have 5 WHO pre-qualifications, the highest number in India. It's a good story to hear, but at the time, no hand-holding from government circles. In fact, Department of Biotechnology was not believing that we can do this. They were heckling at me. What engineer you are doing to do the vaccines? In India, so far, we have been importing the technology, or we are importing the bulk, and really we are bottling them to sell to people. And you want to do R&D in that too recombinant technology, it is not a practical idea. So also, Minister of Health also felt it is not an easy task, but our scientists proved it, we can do it. After that, biotech revolution has come in the country. Biotech parks have come, biotech ministers have come, biotech policies have come. The entire revolution started with Shanta. I am very proud to say that our scientists have done the great job. Thank you very much. Oh, I can.
Okay. No, that's fine. You follow first.
With that, we move on to the fireside chat, recalibrating the innovation ecosystem for a disrupted world. I would like to call on stage our panelists, Professor Uday B. Desai, Founding Director, IIT Hyderabad, Distinguished Professor, Klaksha University. Mr. Utkarsh Palnitkar, Senior Advisor and Investor, Life Sciences. Dr. Ullas Kolthur, Director, CDFT. Dr. Gaurav Singh, CEO, Blockchain for Impact. And Professor Vijay Chandru, Co-founder and Chairman, Strand Genomics, Co-founder, CRISPR-Bits. Ms. Dipanvita would be moderating the session.
Thank you, Priya. You know, while I felt that this is a gathering to whom we can pose some critical questions of today and tomorrow, I also feel that I have to show something very interesting to all of you. Can I have that remag thing? Where is the shoe? Somebody has to give me that. So this is a company, Parishodhana, which is started. Hi Satya, I saw you and that's why I'm saying this, you know. You stand up. Yeah. So what is inside this? This is a very elite gathering. Who can say what this is inside? This is actually a paperweight, a modern day paperweight. It's made out of rare earth, and you have to tell us how we have got this rare earth. So it's 59 in the periodic table. That's what I heard. And
What rare earth is it? Just for
No. I'm saying, where did we get this rare earth from? We didn't get it from China, or we didn't get it from any other country.
I don't know, maybe the Himalayan region?
No, we don't have that. This is, just pass it on, because all the speakers...
Existing magnets.
That's correct. Utkarsh has got it. So there are a lot of hard disk magnets and other magnets which have rare earth in it. And one of the ways is to actually extract and get it back and use it further. A professor from IIT Kharagpur has actually have a technology where I think it's about 97% conversion. 99% conversion. And our you're here. Oh, wonderful. This is our professor from IIT Kharagpur. He is Professor Chenna Bora. And REMAG was born because of a meeting of Parishodhana, one of our startups, Dr. Satya, and Professor Chenna Rao. They decided that they have to actually mine this back and start. So this is New India. You are actually looking at newer ways of doing things. Now you have a plant in Visakhapatnam?
A small plant in Visakhapatnam at a 5 to 8 kg scale right now.
5 to 8 kg. And so we need funds to scale this up. So this is a breakthrough technology from IIT Kharagpur, and this is the kind of partnership that we are looking for, where faculty from universities would work with startups and build companies that last and they're large. Thank you. So I have to announce this because this is a segue to what we'll be talking about. So, as I said, this fireside chat is about recalibrating innovation ecosystem for a disrupted world. Today, because of AI and other advanced technologies, because of climate change, and because of various geopolitical changes that are happening globally, we need to think or rethink our innovation strategy and the innovation ecosystem where we work. So, typically, as many of you who are working on innovation systems, they would know what triple helix in innovation means. It's basically government, academia, industry. That's a triple helix. Our new triple helix is AI, climate change, geopolitics. How do we adjust to this new triple helix and perform and excel? So this is a question that I'm going to pose to our very elite panelists. And I'm not going to introduce them, because if you don't know them, you have a problem. Please Google them out. So first, I want to ask you, request each one of you very briefly to say, when you heard this topic, that this fireside chat, what was your reaction? Any comments? First comments that come to your mind. I'll start with Uday and we'll go like this.
No, first of all, the topic is most appropriate, and it kind of relates to a topic that I have been discussing with some of my colleagues. How is the education system going to recalibrate itself because of AI and other developments that have taken place? What we have been doing, for example, so in a sense, there was a lot of resonance when I saw this topic. Because in the education system, we have been doing it for almost 75 years, I would say. Since the 50s, if you really look at it, yes, there have been incremental changes, but fundamentally it's a very similar approach. But I think with the advent of AI, as you correctly mentioned, now I would say not just AI. I think there was the center that you set up. I think genetic engineering is also going to play a big role. It is not simply artificial intelligence, one component, but soon, the word itself shows genetic engineering. The engineers and the life science guys are going to come together. They already come together, by the way. India is taking its own time, unfortunately. You know, we are great followers. Unfortunately, we don't want to be leaders for some reason or the others. You go to US universities, engineers and bioscientists sit next to each other and discuss things. And that's why the word genetic engineering. So I think these two components are going to really revolutionize things, change things dramatically than what we are doing right now. Each in its own domain has made fundamental changes. Okay, gene therapy is an established therapy for several diseases today. AI is already there. All of us are using AI in one form or the other at some point. So I think the topic is very exciting. The only difficulty, it's a very hard topic. And to imagine that we will come up with a real viable answer in this, whatever, half an hour or 1 hour, it's not going to be possible because, I have been breaking my head for AI for education for at least, I would say, roughly about 3 to 6 months. We're seriously looking at it because, it actually started with the advent of ChatGPT, but now that it has become so dominant, I ask myself, why should a student come to the class? I still don't have a clear answer as to how things will be. My suggestion would be that we are talking of, let's experiment. Nobody is going to have a final answer for this. Yeah. So I think let us just jump in. If there is a remotely viable idea, invest in it and go for it. I'll say a little more about it as we go along.
Thank you.
So, most of my work goes either into India entry strategy or the reverse way. And, we come with a country risk index and, why you should look at one geography. So what you mentioned about, academia, industry and government works in a stable environment. Today we are in an environment of permanent disruption. So this is something that, so if you look at each of those components and, the new paradigm, if you look at artificial intelligence, it's the manner of how innovation takes place. And I was looking at the data, it's estimated anywhere between 15 to 20% of all new global patents filed have AI embedded in them. The estimation is that will move to 50%. So then if you look at climate change, it's, the manner in which innovation is taking place. And again, if you look at statistics, in the last year, I don't know if you could hazard a guess, in the year gone by, $1.8 trillion was invested in climate change related investments. That's a growth of about 11%. So it's about survival and sustainability. And if you look at geopolitics, if you add it, it's telling you where the investment is likely to go. The conventional areas that you were looking at for investment are completely changed. So, what was being looked at in terms of, partnerships are being redrawn, in terms of, so what is important now is the agility that comes from, I would say, an ecosystem intelligence is really that's going to, separate companies from the other. Just on the topic we were talking of, in this environment to recalibrate, I cannot but think before we recalibrate, we have to repair. And unless we repair our existing ecosystem, I don't think we can talk about recalibration. So I think, and we'll touch upon it, going forward in our conversation. But, unless we get our plumbing right, recalibration is a little step ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I would like to believe that we should provide solutions as well, because I think otherwise, we should take some baby firm steps which go to actually address some of these issues. But before that, I'm going to say a couple of things. I think because of AI, climate change, and geopolitics, I don't think none of us in this room or anywhere is prepared to know what's going to happen tomorrow. So as much we are in a disrupted world, I would like to believe that we should also be disruptors. Because if we are not disruptors, I don't think we are taking the problem head on. So I think that's an important thing. I'll just give you 2 examples. I think as much as AI is going to be extremely useful for aiding us in terms of new technology and new solutions, I think it's also going to pose a lot of problems in terms of ethics, in terms of regulations, in terms of acceptability, in terms of all the downsides that the AI will also bring in. I don't think we are able to even comprehend the complexities of the challenges that the AI will pose as much as the opportunities that it has. Second is the climate change. I think the diseases that we know today, the stress that it has on both abiotic and biotic environments is something that's going to change rapidly and more drastically. And I think it's going to come, it's not going to be a slow, slippery slope. It's going to be a drastic, catastrophic change. And I don't think we are prepared for that. Whether it is the diseases, whether it's the crops, whether it's the plants, whether it's the biodiversity, whether it's anything that you think about, it's going to change very dramatically. The diseases that we understand today are not going to be the diseases that we'll see tomorrow, because there's going to be a complex interaction between the aerosols, the new variants of bacteria, and simply the metabolic health of individuals. Last, geopolitics. India is particularly at a very crucial juncture. As much as it is posing a challenge to us, I think it's an opportunity. And I clearly say this because in the global south, I don't see any other country that is so uniquely positioned in terms of having both human capital, financial capital, and intellectual capital to utilize this as an opportunity to catalyze a momentum that is not only useful for India, but for the entire global south. And I think if we don't capture this right now, I think it's going to be a bus that's missed forever, and I don't think we'll be able to make a difference. And the reason why I emphasize on this is because it's actually incumbent on us. It's actually our moral right, responsibility to take this leadership role, because I don't think many other countries in global south will be able to offer solutions for themselves or the rest of the world. And what works in India works anywhere else. So therefore, I am of firm belief that if we don't take leadership, we are failing the world. And therefore, I think let's be the disruptor. Let's not worry about the disruption itself.
Good evening, everyone. I represent a young funding organization called Blockchain for Impact. And when I use term young and funding organization, I automatically become the least knowledgeable person in this company. So pardon me for whatever discussion I am going to do. So we started during COVID times, and we were looking to help India to fund COVID emergency relief. And after that emergency relief, what we thought is, what can be best for the country where we can put our money in. And that point of time, we just discovered this co-vaccine story in which the conventional triple helix model has worked wonderfully, and we wanted to actually enhance this in whatever way we can. So we started funding institutes, we started funding startups through incubators, and then we also are working with government with BIRAC, NRF, DBT, DST, and ICMR. So we were trying to sort out this triple helix itself, that how can we make this triple helix more efficient. In my opinion, whatever we have come to know is that this is not a triple helix at all. Currently, it's mostly 3 silos talking to each other. It's like 3 high-rise building in which you can wave to each other, you can talk to each other. But the coordination part is only limited to certain areas and not the most of them. So our biggest challenge was that how can we make this triple helix work? But now, day before yesterday, I got this message and the man is talking about a new triple helix, which makes sense because AI and the climate change is the thing that can bring these conventional triple helix components also together to work in future for the country's development and for the growth. As a funder, if you talk to me about AI and climate change, 90% of the projects that we receive have some or the other component of AI and climate change in it. Geopolitics, like I said, is very necessary. We come from a blockchain background. 4 to 5 years back, it was very looked down upon. Now it is being embraced by even the government and the other agencies. So geopolitics can determine actually what a funder funds and where the things go in future also. So we have been lucky that we have with the mentorship of people like Vijay Chandru sir, and I'll hand over the mic to him now.
Right. Thank you, Gaurav. Yeah, and I always thought triple helix really comes from collagen. Because, after all, it was, our Professor G.N. Ramachandran and Ramasamy and Venkatachalam who actually, discovered that structure. I was just being a little facetious there, but I think I've had the good fortune of being in an environment at the Indian Institute of Science where science and engineering
work together
in a very cohesive way. And of course, I'm an AI researcher, so actually we were able to, put all of this together in a significant way. But I think I want to say two things, and I want to be a little more positive, right? I think AI, climate, and the geopolitical situation. Climate data, it turns out, is actually open, right? And we were, Praful and I were talking about it while coming. It's one of those areas where you can actually get access to data, right? And today you can't build AIs unless you have access to data, right? So this is one area in which we actually have access to data. Whether it's the European satellite systems, GraphCast from Google, or even the Chinese, and to a certain extent now IMD is also willing to share data. So it's actually a great time to build a foundation model for climate for India. And in fact, we have started out on this in IISc with the Divecha Center for Climate Change.
Sure.
And in about a year, we'll actually be at a foundation model. What we are actually doing right now is an ensemble-based approach. We give 10-day predictions at a sub-district level.
Okay.
For heat, rainfall is still a very tough problem. But at least for heat, we are able to do that. And we are starting to apply this to heat stress and look at that. So I think we can be disruptive, and I think I'll agree with that. I think the challenge is, if you really want to be disruptive with AI, you have to have well-curated data, right? And we've not been very good at that. We have a national weakness in actually putting together good curated data, right? And we have to get better at it, right? And the joy is that now curation can be leveraged with AI, right? So I think, hopefully we can get over this problem and have more of our own data to work with. I just want to end on this bioconvergence note that Uday had raised. I think, if you read someone like Mustafa Suleyman, who is the founder of DeepMind, The Coming Wave is his book. We are at a remarkable time, right, where this convergence of biological sciences, AI, bioengineering, new materials, is creating an extraordinary opportunity to actually look at being disruptors, right? And the last thing I want to say is, I know we are all, you've just come out of a pandemic, and we're all extremely worried about infections and pathogens and so on. But actually, what might save the world and save us from climate change is using microbes, right, in an effective way. And I think this is something we are actively working with the HAI University group. But there are many, many applications that actually have significant impact on climate change. And maybe we can get a piece of that $1 trillion amount that Utkarsh threw up. But I think there's a fantastic opportunity to actually, including with rare metals, and we have a project going on extraction of rare metals. So rare earth elements. So there are all kinds of positive things that we have to actually leverage microbes for. So let's not think of them as only pathogens. In fact, I tell Ganga,
all the friends.
I tell Gagandeep always that she gives these talks and she frightens everybody, right? Let's also speak about the fantastic fungi or the various things that we could do with microbes to actually, build solutions.
I agree. I agree, because if not for microbes, I think the world would exist, because there is a balance, and they are much, much larger than any of us. So we are very insignificant, and I think if we have to be friends with them, I think it's not about leveraging, it's almost like a collaboration.
Right. And these days I work on CRISPR, and
yes.
And CRISPR, we actually is a natural phenomenon. This is how microbes protect themselves against viruses. Yeah. And it's just that now we've figured out how to make a tool out of it. And, now we have an engineering approach to solving all kinds of problems, because we have a tool that came out of nature and came out of scientific understanding of how these microbes work, right?
Yeah. So thank you. I think with that, I have some specific questions for each one of you. And I'll start with Uday. Is that okay? Thank you. What shifts are you noticing in academia, academic research and innovation, due to these massive changes? Specifically, what changes are you seeing?
I wish I could give a very positive answer. Unfortunately not. I think, India is obsessed right now, and I may be crucified now. All our funding agencies, they all talk about translational research. Yeah. Okay. Now, translational research is not addressing the triple helix, neither it is addressing disruptiveness, neither it is addressing instability that you're talking about. And the other thing which is happening, things are going backwards in my opinion. Okay, I'm being critical out here, and please excuse me.
No, it's good, because fireside chats are meant for that.
So what is happening, we are not letting people think innovatively and freely. Everything is highly structured. There is an Excel sheet every funding agency has, and I have to tick mark columns out there. Finally, I learn how to play that game. Everybody learns that. This is not, in fact, I read an article, I wish I can locate it. Maybe I'll share it with Dipantvita. What worked at Bell Labs and what didn't work at Bell Labs. What kind of brought down. It was not simply that AT&T lost the monopoly suit. Okay. Bell Labs, the reason I bring up Bell Labs is perhaps if I have to pick one entity in the recent history, say since roughly 1945 onwards, no other entity has made as much contribution to innovations than Bell Labs. All of you carry a bit of Bell Lab in your pocket. Yeah. Even if you use C language, which is there on your phone, it's Bell Labs. Transistor, Bell Labs. Even all your multimedia, all these presentations that we have out here, all the reels and all the things that you do, there is something called FFT, fast Fourier transform. I'm deliberately using that phrase, which is something so innocuous. Now we teach it today as like one half-an-hour lecture. That came from Bell Labs. And that is what makes your JPEG, MPEG, for everything possible. Absolutely. And the list is endless, by the way. In my opinion, the amount of disruptions that Bell Labs brought in is even more than MIT and Stanford. Okay. Of course, many of the people who are at Bell Labs, like Claude Shannon, went to MIT. Okay. So, but what killed MIT? What created problems with Bell Labs? Okay. Again, this is from the article, and the MBAs got into managing Bell Labs. And suddenly everything got, and it was not, the scientists did have a say. And this is what is happening today in our innovative organizations. Okay. It is like we are emphasizing, sorry, Utkarsh, so we are emphasizing too much of this management, and the MBAs are killing innovation, in my opinion. And I'm making a very harsh statement out here, and I strongly believe in it.
So there are so many scientists out here.
Yeah, thank you. At least I have a few people on my side of the wing. Okay. No, because everything cannot be, innovation is not something which is quantifiable. I cannot have every quarterly review where I will give results as to what has happened. It does not work that way. There has to be a freedom which is given. If you see the video by Claude Shannon, everything, all this IT business, there's one man who is responsible for it, is Claude Shannon. He says, Bell Labs gave me too much freedom. For 2 years, they didn't ask him anything. And the story I used to hear about Bell Labs, and a colleague of mine told me, it may not be so much so, but to exaggerate, when he got a job at Bell Labs, he went and asked his manager, what should I do? The manager said, there is a library. There we keep our stationery, books, there is paper, pencil, pens. You decide what you want to do. Who am I to tell you what to do? And I think that is, we have to create that. India doesn't have that culture. In fact, I was making some notes based on what came up out here. We are talking of disruptions. Chandru, India will never create disruptive technology. I mean, name one disruptive technology which came from India. At least I am hard pressed to name it.
Simputer.
Simputer was, no, they were handled at that time. It is not disruptive. Sorry, don't get me wrong. I use Simputer. I bought a Simputer, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
And I was at HP Labs at that time, which had come out. It was a fantastic. In fact, I still talk about it as one of the. At least we built a darn computer which was completely indigenous in India, and for that I congratulate Vijay Chandru.
I always talk about it.
But at that time, handhelds were there. I had handhelds, from other companies that I don't recall right now. But handheld devices were there, and we could see what was coming. No doubt about it. But that is an example where somewhere, we could have gone to the iPhone, but somewhere we stopped.
Yeah.
But so disruptive, see, I'll tell you why. Disruptive technology requires ability to tolerate mistakes. We don't tolerate mistakes. Look at our school education. You make a mistake, tuck, on your knuckles you get one. At least I got it. I don't know about other you guys.
Now you do.
Yeah. Now maybe the parents start shouting at you, so the teachers are a little more careful. In my time, my father never went to school. I mean, never went to my school. I mean, he didn't bother what I did. Okay. So all I'm saying is that, we don't tolerate mistakes. Even today, when funding is given, they want results. What are the outcomes? What are the deliverables? Everything has to be there. Suppose at the end of the thing you say, look, I tried all these things and it did not work. Goodness gracious, you will be sort of, blacklisted forever. Okay? And I think that culture has to change. So if you ask me in academia, I'm really sad to say this, we tolerated more. Today we are not tolerating. It's a very rigid structure with a nice, well-defined matrix that I have to satisfy when I do R&D. And I have to give results, if not one quarter, every 6 months. By the way, I argued heavily against it. Of course, I usually come out on the losing side on this argument. Okay, but I still keep arguing. Okay, because I think one shouldn't stop arguing. One shouldn't stay. This has to go. If you permit me, I'll give another example of US. Why is US? Bell Labs, as I talked about, was a great leader because this freedom was given. If you get a chance, read the farewell lecture by Hamming. Hamming is a very famous coding theory man. Almost all the data that you store still uses some amount of Hamming codes in it. Okay, so that's another thing which Bell Labs is there. Any data which is stored here on the cloud has some degree of Hamming code in it. Okay, so read his, and he says that it was, this is what I wanted to bring up out here in this discussion. We have IKP, life sciences. We have certain IITs, incubators looking at engineering science, engineering. Bell Labs, there were people from chemistry, people from physics, people from statistics, people from biology, life sciences. Motley group was there. And what Hamming says was great. One day I go for lunch, I'm sitting with a chemist. And suddenly I get an idea as to what I should do in coding theory based on what the chemistry guy talked about. Or a biological guy talked about in terms of what coding goes on in our biological system. There is coding out there also. Any biologist will tell you that. Okay. Now that interaction is totally lacking in India. Okay. So we need to create an IKP kind of a institution where we have people from all walks of life. People who look crazy also should be there. Everybody need not be a nice straight-jacketed guy. We need people with toned jeans and toned T-shirts and disheveled hair also as part of that system. I think we are missing that particular part of it. I'll stop here. I have a lot. I can go on for it. It's my favorite topic.
So
I'll stop.
The institutes I've been to, I was very happy with TIFR because where somebody would write a problem, a little part, and somebody else will come to the canteen and write the next. So I was so impressed.
No, in fact, that example is there in the movie called Good Will Hunting. If you have seen the movie, you'll see that in that.
I love that. I think we need to do a lot. There's a lot can be done, but with that, Utkarsh, how do you think would geopolitics impact innovation, especially in a country like ours?
Sure. So Uday has given me so much of ammunition. And, for any business, there's just two things that you want, right? You want predictability and you want reliability. And, especially if you're looking at setting up an R&D lab anywhere, that gets even more complicated because, you have a much longer period of time that you're looking at. One of the challenges, which I said, when you're looking at getting investments into India, we used to have, because we had finance ministers who retrospectively changed some laws. So even even when we had a tax holiday for 10 years, you couldn't guarantee that that tax holiday would last and then there something came as minimum alternative tax. So there was unreliability we could guarantee in India. But now that is global. He talked about US. US was that shiny village, up in the star where reliability, you could talk about it. Now you're in the US, in the morning when you get up and read the Wall Street Journal, something has changed overnight. So now the same thing, and it's not, when you talk about geopolitics and R&D, it's not a new phenomenon. Innovation has been weaponized and continues to be weaponized. Take the case of chips. 90%, 92% to be precise, all advanced chips come from one country, Taiwan. Right? If anything happens in the Chinese straits there, from aviation to automation, everything is dead. So what is happening therefore? See what's happened just in the last few years. US has, announced its US CHIPS Act. $280 billion has gone. They have invested unthinkable in a country like US, investing in an enterprise like Intel. They have bought the equity of Intel. Europe, 43 billion euros invested for their CHIPS Act. Japan, $13 billion given for incentives. Take our own semicon, journey, the 76,000 crores. Forget chips. I was looking at the legislation from 2018 to today. There are 600 pieces of legislation for export control. So what gets done within the country, you cannot export. So the number of legislations that's coming to protect it, it is growing. So there is no doubt about it that, we are getting insular to a large extent. And therefore, what you thought about partnerships that you can make may not hold water. So therefore, nimbleness is what is required. So how can you forge newer partnerships? And this just, if you look at it from an Indian context, how do we? So I agree with you. We have both a risk and an opportunity. Risk, obviously, we are very heavily dependent on outside technology, IP, and materials. All three were very heavily dependent. I mean, look, take the simplest thing. All of us use Microsoft Office. All of us use Google. All of us, use tools that are developed outside the world. And this is basic that I'm talking about.
Switch to Zoho, right?
Switch to Zoho.
Yeah, switch to Zoho, absolutely. But look at it from an opportunity standpoint. From an opportunity standpoint, I think we have an opportunity to act as a bridge. And this opportunity to act as a bridge could be as credible to the West, a partner to the East, and maybe, in terms of providing a respectful opportunity for the global South. But can we do that? Again, we come to it and the points that Uday made. See, today in India, 70% of R&D spend is still in the public sector. It's still coming from the government. Unless you switch that, and the R&D has to come from the private sector. Unless we do that, you need competitive funding of every year, year by year, you've got a budgetary allocation to all our government laboratories. Why don't we have competitive funding of government laboratories? If a country like China could do that, Australia could do that, why should our government laboratories get funded year on year on year? What disruption are we going, if you're talking of, and Uday made the complete case, all the points I was going to make, Uday has made, so I simply say ditto to him. There is no, we are fooling ourselves. Okay, we are greatly positioned, but what do we have to offer in terms of innovation is something that we have to take a hard look at. But the fact of the matter remains that we will have to forge newer partnerships. We will have to see, and what is also likely to happen is within geographies, hitherto that we have not looked at, these are likely to come to the fore.
Yeah. Thank you. So what do you see the challenges in life sciences? You're talking of innovation in general, but you've seen the life sciences field, so what are the three critical elements that we should focus on?
Okay, so I would probably go beyond challenges because I would actually look at what solutions we can provide, right? Because I think that's important. So I completely agree with both Uday and Utkarsh. I think it's absolutely frustrating to be a scientist in a publicly funded institution. It's, Amit is there, but, I belong to 3 institutions, and I believe you can't write the history of life science in India without these 3. I did my PhD from IAC. For most part of my life, I've been at TFR, Bombay and Hyderabad, and now I'm associated with DBT. I think nothing can be written about life sciences without these 3 organizations.
Yeah,
And I completely agree with you that, at least the philosophy that TIAFA follows. Baba's philosophy still continues. Get the best mind, give them everything, they'll do great things.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's absolutely evident from centers like NCRA, NCBS, ICTS, which has spawned many institutions within an institution simply because somebody thought they could dream big and that dream became a reality. I partly disagree with Uday that we didn't come up with disruptive technologies. I know for sure, but both from IAC and TIFA, that there have been several disruptive technologies, but back then there was no ecosystem. There was no industry that was ready to adopt and take it forward. So we simply we didn't belong in the West, right? So I therefore would like to believe that even today, I'm part of many scientific advisory committees in the Indian academia. I see in every institution, whether it is a CSIR institution, a DBT institution, or a DA institution, there are a lot of technologies, a lot of ideas that are raring to go, but we don't have takers simply because there is no dialogue, right? So I think the challenge is basically simply a platform or a fora where people can talk to each other. So here's a simple solution. Yeah. And I'm going to actually propose this and throw it as a challenge, and let's see how many people pick it up. As part of CDFT, we are, I think Deepanvita knows this, she has been one of the mentors for this, we are setting up a tech stack called a large biotech park in Hyderabad, which is probably unlike anything else that exists in the country, and also being helped by inputs from IKP, where we want to create tech stack where each of the academia in Hyderabad is willing to set up a center of excellence dedicatedly in a neutral territory so that it doesn't become a private property of the institution, and which is going to be monitored by, actually managed by a Section 8 or a SPV, so that none of us spoil it by bringing all either the government mentality or the typical management corporate mentality. So it's going to be managed independently. So can all of us come together and contribute to this, where each of the industries or the funders can actually think about investing in this particular thing? That's the first solution. Second, we all spoke about microbial advantages, right? I'll tell you, again, by being on at least almost more than half of the scientific advisory committees in the country, lots of microbes, lots of genetically engineered bugs are staying in our -80s. When people retire, they just get junked and thrown into the dustbin. I have actually created an initiative where, using the AIIs, using our huge repository of microbes, can we have a hackathon to metabolically engineer these microbes, which can become useful for the industry? You have funders, Utkarsh is here, Gaurav is here, Vijay is here, Uday is here. Why not we make it with IKP? I'm hosting it in CDFT. Let's have a hackathon where we can engineer already engineered bugs to make one more tweak, second or a third genetic manipulation that will have huge impact in our biomanufacturing, in our whatever biomedical outputs that we are thinking about. Third, again, something that I've started with both TIFR and CDFT is, we are not having stakeholders. We are not the real stakeholders. The stakeholders are the next generation scientists. Are we creating enough opportunities for them to talk between the industry and academia? I don't think we are doing it. So for the first time, thanks to, in fact, it is an idea that both me and Srinivas Orugunti from Drills came up with. We said, can we have industry-sponsored postdocs who will spend time in the laboratories and then go back to industry, right? So we have started it. Right now we have 2 postdocs spending time in CDFT and 2 postdocs spending time in Arumda, which is the metabolic center that I lead. And the mandate is very simple. They have to work only on mission mode project, which have an output, which has an impact on the translation. Blue sky connected with translation, which is a paradoxical or oxymoronic statement. So can people here come forward and fund those postdoctoral positions? Because I don't think government agencies will be willing to fund those positions. Here is an opportunity and a challenge, but can we capitalize on this? Last, we spoke about global challenges, we spoke about Global South. Something that again we have initiated as part of Arumda is that we speak about medtech, biotech, CGT, all of these smart proteins, but I think we are disconnected from the reality in society. I'm sorry I'll say this, because none of us sitting here have probably have the wherewithal, including me, in terms of understanding the scale and scope of diversities and disparities that exist within the country and across the Global South. So what we are doing is actually, thanks to a major initiative that hopefully one of the biggest philanthropic agencies in the world, we are working with Arumda, is that we are trying to create conclaves for community health partners across Global South, where people come and discuss exactly the ground challenges that exist. Even if a medtech, will it work in the rural sector? Will it work? Your supply chains, cold chains, right? Stability of products. We don't understand these things, right? So we are not really looking at realistic view. We are only looking at whether the medtech will work in, let's say, Apollo hospitals or Medanta or some of these. We have to think about whether the medtech will work in primary healthcare centers. So can we think about funding such initiatives where we bring together the real stakeholders so that the bottom-up discovery and innovation can happen, where we actually see how local solutions can also happen, not global solutions, really bottom-up. So I think there are opportunities for us. These may not be the most obvious ones. Maybe I'm wrong in proposing these things, but I think we should start somewhere. It's okay to go wrong in some of these initiatives.
Tomorrow, if you come to our TechX Expo, there'll be 25 startups working on just this, and I'll introduce you to that. Because this time, it is on purpose. It is across domains that you've put together. Thank you. Yes, Gaurav, where do you think innovation funds are gravitating?
Yes, ma'am. So, if I will be very honest, currently the funding scenario, especially from private funders, is all about power game, from where you can get the maximum visibility and maximum power. Let's say you go somewhere, these are the partnerships, we have partnership with AIMS, ISC and all. I think in future, especially if I talk about my organization, my founder does not consider an MOU with AIMS as a success. Sure. He says that we should have a product in our hand, which I can, when I'm sitting in San Francisco with other investors and people, I can show it to them that my funding created this product. No matter it is coming from ISC or it is coming from a small engineering college from a small town. So impact is the basic philosophy of what the future funding is going to be. The second thing is, and I take this from Vitalik Buterin, who is also one of our biggest donors. He said, give and forget. If you have chosen the person by all due diligences and you trust him, then you don't have to worry about how he's using that fund. Okay, so like sir mentioned that sometimes we're worried about the timelines and all. Timelines and all, most of the funders, I think in the new world are not very worried about. They are mostly worried about the transparency. Transparency means how the fund that we have donated, where it is being spent. If we can get that much information, it is more than enough for us for most of the time. The third thing that I want to point out is, there are many philanthropic, as a Indian society, we are philanthropic in nature. We donate a lot of funds to many people, to temples, to orphanages and all. How can we make this funding directed towards innovation? And we can only direct this through innovation when we can actually show the people that, okay, their money is spent in this project and this is the outcome. And give them all the value for the money they are having, that, okay, you have spent for this project and this is the thing that has come out of it. So we need to focus on innovation as a society. In a place where 3 to 4 years of your life are spent in Kota and other places just to revise the same syllabus, I think this innovation mentality has to come in by making more role models, by showing more projects that are actually successful to the public. And I am very sure in future, more public will also be contributing to the innovation ecosystem.
Thank you. Actually, I'm seeing more philanthropic money from very small organizations now flowing in. Thank you. So, Vijay, what is the impact of AI and advanced technologies on healthcare, biosecurity, and well-being of the planet? Just not well-being of people, well-being of the planet.
First of all, I do think, and I'm going back to some of the things that Utkarsh mentioned, I think this disruption, geopolitical disruption, and so on, is an extraordinary opportunity for India to actually now think seriously about sovereign technology. I mean, on the one hand, you might say we are trying to be going back to being protected and so on, and not. But let's face it, globalization is under threat, right? And I think it's really important for us to think through how we actually are going to disrupt and build sovereign technology, right? I get so excited by the fact that Debojyoti at IGIB has come up with ENFN Cas9. It's a completely Indian, enzyme that drives CRISPR. Yeah. It's extraordinary, and we don't have to, battle with Broad or the regions of California or whoever else. These are the kinds of things that we have to think about. Now, one problem that we've had in the life sciences and biotech and medtech and so on is that we have not equated biosecurity with national security.
We have not.
We have not. And face it, innovation in the West, and particularly with technology, has all been driven by a military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not,
True.
The military-industrial complex is what has led to the innovations at Bell Labs or anywhere else, right?
For the last 100 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Since Eisenhower's time, right?
Yes.
Since Sputnik moment, 1957, right? But I think let's not. So I think this is what I've been trying to, convince Niti Aayog and others, that let's actually now think about biosafety and biosecurity as a national security imperative, and therefore, we get the kind of resources that, we would put into ISRO or atomic energy or, to also come to the life sciences. So I think that message we should keep repeating, because I think it's an important one. And, without that, we are always, going to be dealing with, difficulties in funding and having enough patient capital to back that kind of disruption, right? The other, the aspect of how AI will impact all of these things, I think, and in particular about planetary health, I think I alluded to it earlier, but I think we have to think afresh of how we're going to address these problems. There are lots of good lessons to be learned and best practices and so on, which we can learn from, but we have to really start thinking seriously about addressing problems more directly and building solutions, as well as we say.
Thank you. I think all of you are enjoying what we are discussing. It's getting late. It's 9:15. Everybody is hungry. But Uday has a point, and then there'll be just a 30 seconds run to say what is their worldview 5 years later. And with that, we will have a toast in the next building, because this place is too small to host everyone for dinner. Yes.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I'm sorry, I'm taking a little more time.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. So I'm going to again contradict something which has been talked about, this triple helix thing that you talked about. innovators shouldn't worry about triple helix. I mean, if you worry about that, you'll never be an innovator. Science managers have to worry. If you look at Oppenheimer, when he went for the Manhattan, before that he was a scientist doing fundamental research, doing innovation, doing inventions. The day he became the manager for Manhattan Project, he had to worry about those triple helix. I mean, not geopolitics, he had to worry about local politics, and he had to worry about etc., etc. Baba had to worry about that. Fantastic, brilliant mind. Sarabhai had to do the same thing. Okay? They are fantastic, brilliant people, but at some point, they graduated, they said, look, we need to do this part. So everybody cannot worry about triple helix. There are a few people who take leadership position, okay, they need to worry about. And they need to protect, like Baba protected people below him, Sarabhai protected people below him. And that has to be the case. In Satish Dhawan, I don't know much about Satish Dhawan. In the Satish Dhawan, so I think the triple helix has to be thought in a very different sense, because if every individual worries about triple helix, there's no innovation.
Uday, and then that 30 seconds, what is your worldview? What will happen 5 years later?
5 years later, I think...
You can say, I don't know.
Yeah, no. 5 years later, I hope, I think the disruptions and this, we started with globalization. Okay, right now, suddenly everybody is becoming like, sovereign partner, mine is mine. The world is suddenly, but that's not going to last too long. We have this something called the internet, which has broken all darn borders. I can transmit whatever software I want from point A to point B, irrespective of, and I know somebody who's a hacker. He hacked into, he has a startup and all, so I told him, be careful. He hacked into some NASA at one time. I said, don't do that, you're going to be in big trouble. Okay. So point is that it is not a difficult thing, and the internet has broken global barriers. We are going through a transient. I think 5 years down the road, I'm hoping, and I believe also, that we will be back to globalization, which will create more innovation and really disruptive technologies.
Thank you. Uday? Oh, sorry, Utkarsh. I've forgotten the name.
Sure. So, Dipanwita, what will happen in 5 years has been my favorite question. I've been on the other side several times. And this is a true story. The Indian Drugs and IDMA had called me for their Golden Jubilee. Pankaj Patel, you had Dilip Sanghvi and Glenn Saldana. In their wisdom or apparent lack of it, for their 60th anniversary, they called me again. I was looking through my questions, the same thing. Again, same question. And here you're talking of 5 years, there was 10 years. So I think the question that we should be asking is, why isn't it yet happened, rather than what is going to happen in the next 5 years? But on a more serious note, I think, you're going to see far more regional alliances come up. Geography is going to devise it. So in terms of whether it's the Red Sea, the Chinese Straits, or where the cables flow from, is going to define where innovation is going to take place from a geographic standpoint. I was struggling for a word when I was thinking of this. What I think the word that can best describe it is networked self-reliance. So there will be smaller networks that you will have to build, but not, And, so finally, I see 5 years from now, definitely a fragmented world, but relationships that keep changing. So what is true today may not be true tomorrow. And therefore, your nimbleness with which you can move is really what you are going to see 5 years from now.
Yeah, so I'm very optimistic. I think one of the things that we need to build is the public trust in science, which I think is very low. And I'm afraid with, a lot of AI, a lot of fake news, I think we are going to lose a lot of public trust. I think somehow in all of these discussions, whether it's IKP, whether it's, institutions or this, we don't probably hear a voice of the citizens. I think unless we do that, we're also not going to have this, because ultimately, none of what we are talking about will be sustainable unless we have human capital. You need to enthuse your younger generation to believe that science in India is good and they can probably contribute to this innovation ecosystem. I don't know if we are doing enough in that particular manner. We are talking a lot about TIFRs, IITs, ICERs, but there's a large gap in the masses of India where I don't think we are tapping into that human capital. So I think unless we do that, it's not going to happen. Second, I think I'm going back to the Global South thing. If we actually...
5 years later.
5 years later, right? So if we actually nicely couple this, going back to the Global South discussion, if we use our innovations to make sure that we also provide solutions to Global South, I think it will also act as nice science diplomacy and soft diplomacy, which is going to be, guarding India for a long time. I think I'm purely looking from an Indian perspective. I think there's an opportunity for us to also use that as a bargaining chip in the global world, where innovations that happen in India that can be applied in Africa, Latin America, or South Asia will be useful from an economic perspective, from a science perspective, but also from a diplomacy perspective. So I think I'm optimistic, but I think public engagement is missing, and unless we do that, I don't think we'll achieve any of this.
Go to 30 seconds.
Yes. So me and my founder are very bullish on India in next 5 years' time. Just because of AI, that is information and access to information is very easy after AI, and the population advantage that we have. So we say that we spend only 0.6% of GDP on R&D, but that 0.6% is actually 70 billion, which is much more than many countries that actually spend on them. So in 5 years' time, what we see is India rising up in the innovation table, at least coming into first 10 if possible from now, from where it is. And we are hoping for that same future.
Okay, thank you. Vijay, last word.
Yeah, I'm bullish for a few reasons, but I also want to point out that one of the things that is a very pivotal moment in 2025 we might think of is the DeepSeek moment. Right? Now, how did a small group in China with they didn't have the kind of big bucks that Utkarsh was pointing out, actually build something that is challenging everybody. I mean, the latest release from DeepSeek is extraordinary, right? The latest release is it can convert very poorly copied material. It does the OCR equivalent using deep AI. You can imagine a prescription written by a physician, right? And trying to decipher what it says. And this is the kind of stuff that DeepSeek is putting out. So I think, again, to Gaurav's point, I think we're working under financial constraints, but we can be creative, right? And still achieve a lot. There was a big delegation from Brown University not too long ago, maybe 6 months ago, and I was asked the following question. Can India be the third player in biotechnology? Right? It's an interesting question because, it's clear who the first and the second are. Now the question is, who's going to be the third, right? And there are lots of countries lining up around that 150 billion, 100 billion bioeconomies, and India is there. We are 150. So by 2030, I predict we'll be number 3.
Okay.
Right?
With that we...
So, which, by the way, you can quantify that. If you look at the world's bioeconomy today, we are at about 5 trillion, right? To be the third player, if you think about Jagdish Seth's rule of 3 and so on, you need at least 10% of market share, right? So we have to be a 500 billion bioeconomy.
By
today,
2030.
By 2030. We are at 160 today. 150 last year.
Okay, now
it's about 162 right now. 65, yeah. The report is just coming out pretty soon from Niti Aayog. Right, sure. Yeah, but somewhere
500
to 500,
yeah.
We have to work on it, and that's where disruption.
We have to
right?
Really think
and
how to do that.
But I'm bullish about this. I think we can be there, right? And we just have to work at it. And I think as you said right in the beginning, there's so much momentum, right? I think we have to find a way to channel that momentum and create value.
Correct.
And
Correct.
right. So,
Absolutely. So let's give this panel a big applause. You know, since I have the VMAC thing, yes, but boxed and, I can't say bottled. Thank you. A small paperweight from us. Oh, thanks. With that, we break for dinner and cocktails. Cocktails and dinner, to be precise. But that's not here because there is not enough space. And because of rains, we are not going in the lawns. They asked us to change the venue. So last moment change in venue is back to HICC, first floor. So it's all laid for all of you. Thank you so much.